Hi everybody, and welcome back to Lost Genre Reddit Stories. This post is from the subreddit Relationships, and it's by user Deleted, recovered random acts of paranoia. I, 31 female, cannot stand my boyfriend's 30 male mom, 60 female, and I think she might be literally insane. My boyfriend's mom is easily one of the worst people I've ever encountered in my entire life, and it is a miracle that her son, my boyfriend, has turned out to be such an incredible, kind, and loving person. She has serious, blatant mental issues that aren't being treated, and I oscillate between feeling intense sadness for her and pure hatred. Some examples of her behavior just from this past year. She filed a restraining order against her own brother over a financial trust dispute. Her father died last year, and he was apparently very wealthy, and there was a big trust fund to fight over. I don't know what happened between her and her brother, but I watched her behavior at the hospital while her father died, and she was an awful witch. Her own mother, who has severe dementia, was beside herself. Every 30 minutes she had to be reminded we were in the hospital with her husband of 50 years on his deathbed. My boyfriend's mother was seriously nasty to her, and even hospital staff noticed and tried to protect her. The trust should have gone to the widow, and her brother took it over to provide medical care and living arrangements for her. She fought this tooth and nail, insisting the money was hers. She sued him for the money and lost. She remains extremely bitter about this. She is very jealous of my boyfriend's niece's grandmother, the other grandma, and badmouths her to this 6-year-old child, saying things like, "Grandma Mary is a bitch." Grandma Mary, by the way, is sweet, timid, and very quiet. Every Christmas, without fail, she blows up. We hosted her at our home last Christmas and all seemed well until she found out we were going to Vegas the next week to celebrate my birthday. She stormed out and drove home. Then, on Christmas Day, wrote an email stating, "You are no longer my children, period. Like I said, I have learned my lesson. I am sure Mary will take you in as that seems to be her MO." My boyfriend pulled up email records from the past 5 years, and there is always an email like this sent to the entire family on Christmas. She lives 2 hours away, but had a dance event where we lived this past summer. We agreed to host her for a couple of days, but when she informed us it would be nearly 5 full days and we had evening plans on some of them, we asked if she could stay at my boyfriend's brother's house. She gets violently angry if we're not in the home to entertain her. This caused the biggest uproar you could ever imagine. She told my boyfriend he was a horrible son, told him to F himself, and that she hated him. When she finally got to our house a couple of days later, she ran into the house screaming and demanding he go get all of her stuff out of the car. He was miserably sick, and when she found this out, she told him she ought to slap him upside the head for having her there. We were under the impression she would be at her event through the weekend, but instead she sat around our home complaining and being generally awful. We both had important work to do over the weekend that we could not do because she was there. When she offered to sweep and mop the floors, we didn't stop her because it gave her a distraction. She later wrote an email stating, "I am trying to get out and meet people, but you all curtail any effort. I don't have any friends. My whole life has been condemned to the enslavement of others, whether I want to or not. The final straw was giving up the afternoon dance event to mop and clean for my son." I would have paid her to leave that day. This is just a mild example of how her mind works and how she justifies her own behavior. One of her lifelong dreams was to drive the Pacific Coast Highway. My boyfriend tried to make that dream a reality for her last month. Together they planned the cities to stop at, the activities they wanted to do, and the type of car they wanted to drive. They agreed on who would pay for what. I was invited on this trip and reluctantly agreed to go. We all discussed payment and agreed I would pay for my own food and activities while they would split car and hotel costs since I didn't have a say in any of it and it was technically their trip. After the dance event incident, she wrote an email stating, "I am only going to Cali at this point because OP would be forced to go 50-50 with Son, even though she makes less than him, but it won't be that much fun." She wrote this email to the entire family for some reason. We move forward with the trip aware of the potential risks. Things blew up way beyond what we ever had planned though. We expected anger and childlike behavior from her, but the justification from my boyfriend is that if it would improve her happiness levels even slightly, it was worth it. On the last day, she has a tendency to get very upset the day a trip ends. While discussing payments, she just lost it. We were in the car and she started screaming about how awful we were at the top of her lungs. She screamed bloody murder at me for things I've never even said or thought. She brought up things from years ago that has since been distorted in her mind. And when my boyfriend said the screaming needed to stop or we would have to just head to the airport early, our flight was about 8 hours from then and a 2-hour drive, she lost it even further. She called 911 and insisted we were both holding her hostage and about to abandon her. We had to pull over in a fancy hotel parking lot, no less, and the cops came and questioned all of us. Within 5 minutes, they caught on to her mental issues and hysteria. They forced her to vacate the car and separate from us. She got hysterical again, begging to not have to leave and that she would just shut up. When they said it was a bad idea to stay together, she asked for the police report number so she could file a restraining order against my boyfriend, her son. He gave her money for car and food for the day and drove away in shock. So why am I writing this? Partially to vent, partially because I feel like I'm going crazy. My boyfriend said I need to just separate myself from her alternate reality and not let it affect me, but I simply cannot do that no matter how much I try. I think she needs mental help, but my boyfriend just says, that's the way she is. The thing is, there's always a summer blow-up like this, and then about a month before Christmas, she writes an email that says, so, when do you want to celebrate Christmas and whose place am I staying? It just cannot happen again this year. I don't want her in my life, and I especially don't want her ruining my favorite time of the year for the 3rd year in a row. Am I being overly sensitive? Should I put up with her behavior? How do we move forward in a healthy way? Woof, OP, she sounds like a handful. I would say, no OP, you are not being overly sensitive. She clearly does have some issues that should be treated, but they're not yours to treat and it is not your responsibility and you shouldn't put up with it. The fact that she has issues doesn't mean that you have to put up with them. And your boyfriend's solution and excuse that you just need to separate yourself from her alternate reality and that that's the way she is does not help at all. In my opinion, if you don't want her in your life and you don't want to deal with her at all, then that's what you need to tell your boyfriend. And he should understand your boundaries. But if he gets upset, like that him and his mom are a package deal of sorts, then you have some thinking to do. But back to the issue, this is something that your boyfriend needs to address and you shouldn't have to put up with it. But if he doesn't want to address his mom's issue and wants to keep her in his life and continue visiting her or whatever, fine, he can totally do that. Just don't bring her to our home, meaning yours and his, and maybe you tell him, well, I'm gonna go spend Christmas with my parents or something like that, because why should you have your holiday ruined because he doesn't want to do anything about it? And apart from setting healthy boundaries, what else do you think OP should do? Let me know in the comments section, and now let's move on to the community comments to see what they said. American Girl says, you don't have a mother-in-law problem, you have a significant other problem. That's just the way she is a fine attitude when someone over-decorates for Christmas or is obsessed with polka music. It does not apply when the person is a psycho lunatic and the police need to be called. If your boyfriend doesn't start setting some boundaries and continues to enable her crazy, you may want to think seriously about trading him for a guy who has a spine and can say no to his mother. And OP responds, to be fair, after the summer dance event incident, we came together and made a joint decision that she could no longer stay in our home. That was a healthy discussion, a big step for him, and the line we drew brought us both relief. Also, me going on that trip was my decision and I could have said no. He did not force me and wouldn't have made me feel guilty for not going. Still, I didn't think it was a good idea to do the trip in the first place and I did want to support him. We agreed after that trip that there would be no more trips like that while she was still this unhealthy. Blind Pelican says, here's where asserting some healthy boundaries for yourself will help. I don't think you're being unreasonable at all. The hard part of navigating your relationship with your boyfriend and how he copes with the situation. You said you don't want her in your life, which means your boyfriend needs to know that you want nothing to do with her and you need to assert this wish wherever appropriate. That could mean anything from only engaging with her at social events with multiple people to never speaking to her at all. It's entirely up to your comfort level. This really falls on him to navigate. If he wants to maintain a relationship with his mother that's more involved, then he'll have to do it without you. My only suggestion for that would be to not make him choose per se. If he goes off for a week with his mom, then be okay with that. Encourage him, in fact. Don't put him in a position where he has to defend her to you. Just be clear that you find her toxic and want nothing to do with her. Skrulewi says, quote, "My boyfriend said I need to just separate myself from her alternate reality and not let it affect me." End quote. You need to separate yourself from her for sure. The only way to separate yourself from her reality is to separate yourself from her. You know this. She screams. You can't hide from that unless you separate yourself from her. Set a boundary. Quote, "I will not spend time around your mother." End quote. Let your significant other know that that's what you're planning on doing for your own mental health, and kindly do what you can to support him in doing the same. If he refuses to set boundaries, then that shows you what the real problem in your relationship is. Alright, well, OP got some pretty solid advice, and she didn't respond to anything else except for the one comment that I did read, but she did give us a big post, so there wasn't much information that we needed to get anyways. So now, let's move on to the update to see how this story ends. It's been about a month since I last posted, and there have been a few small developments. The most notable thing is that my boyfriend and I, along with his family, have had several serious conversations about how to move forward. But first, some more information on how his mother has been behaving over the last month. She went on a spree of verbally attacking me, both via text to me and via text to his family members. She threatened to sabotage our recent trip to my hometown to see my family, which I'd been looking forward to for months, as we hadn't all been together in 3 years. She also made lots of petty comments and insults about me, not limited to my lack of talent. I am in a creative profession, and my boyfriend's stupidity for being with someone like me. Basically, she's super pissed with her current station in life, and I am the privileged individual who gets the blame. She also contacted my boyfriend's brother to let him know she was writing his 7-year-old daughter out of her will and taking away her college fund. This has been done about 24 times, because she spent time with me and enjoyed it, versus not being happy when spending time with her. I have blocked her from every social media platform, email, and phone or text. My boyfriend's brother has taken a placating approach by simply responding with, "Okay," whenever she texts, versus engaging. Outside of the verbal aggression, she has backed off. She used to call my boyfriend at a frequency of several times a week, which he admits was a cumbersome, exhausting burden because he felt obligated to listen to her 30-minute angry diatribes about whatever drama was happening in her world. She hasn't called him in 2 months, and it has been glorious. Regarding the upcoming holidays, we sat down with his other family members here and decided how to move forward. We were all in agreement that we will not spend Thanksgiving or Christmas with his mother. We have made plans to travel out of town for both Thanksgiving and Christmas, and we're very much looking forward to the mini excursions. At this point, his mother would have likely contacted us about Thanksgiving plans, but in her anger since the Pacific Coast Highway fiasco, she hasn't attempted to do so. I am not sure if she will reach out about Christmas, but if she does, then we will relay our current plans and take it as we go. In addition to family-wide conversations about holidays, we have talked extensively about his mother's mental health and the best ways to move forward. In my state, there is a law that allows you to file a court-ordered mental health evaluation, and it only takes one person to file the application. That is not an option we have ruled out, especially since she is clearly hurting and mentally unwell, and could benefit greatly from a mental health check and medication. It is my understanding that one has been filed for her previously, and that the court found a mental disorder, but she has ceased taking medication. If it were up to me, I would file the application yesterday. Ultimately though, I don't want to sidestep my boyfriend. In the end, as a family, we have agreed that our lives are better when she is not in them. My boyfriend has been so much happier in the last 2 months. He expressed joy for not having to deal with her, and that ultimately she is happier too, since everything we do, even planning a lifelong dream trip for her, causes her great distress in the end. We'll just have to take this one day at a time, but things have been calmer, generally, and I am looking forward to the holidays instead of feeling anxious about them for the first time in 3 years. Now, regarding our future as a couple, my boyfriend and I have begun to discuss elder care issues, raising our children without her being there if we have kids, and sticking to boundaries instead of letting her push us around even in extreme cases. There's an enormous amount of things we will need to deal with and work through, but we are thinking about the long term for sure. We are definitely heading in the right direction with this, and he accepts and understands my decision to not include her in my life. It will be a winding and complicated process though, for sure. Alright, well, OP, it sounds like you guys are all headed in the right direction. You were able to talk to your boyfriend, set your boundaries, he respected them, and you guys are also talking about the future, considering everything that has to do with his mother, including that court-mandated mental health checkup, which is a good thing. So everything considered, I think you're on the right track, OP, so all the best in the future to all of you, and thank you for sharing. Take care, OP. And now, let's move on to the next post. This post is from the subreddit Malicious Compliance, and it's by user KamamCG. I will be playing this in front of the whole class. Well, okay. In the second semester of my freshman year, I was taking a music theory course. The professor was very serious about her job, and this class was a bit of a weed-out class for students who wanted to pursue music education. I was taking it for fun. By the time the end of the semester rolled around, I got the feeling she didn't really like me much because I didn't pay attention in class but still got A's on the homework, exams, or playing tests. I'd played piano for a decade by this point, so she couldn't really punish me for anything since I wasn't disrupting the class but was just a thorn in her side through lack of participation. Thank God that wasn't part of our grade. Our final project was to find a poem we liked and craft a song using the poem as the lyrics. As she passes out the requirement sheet, she announced that she would be playing these for the class, so we need to put effort in so that we don't feel embarrassed by what she's playing in front of everyone. About 30 people. She shoots a glance at me, the least involved student, as she says that, which I took as a challenge. I found a poem called A Minor Bird and decided to craft my masterpiece in the key of E-flat minor. The reasoning: 6 out of the 7 notes are lowered a half step, so it's not a matter of thinking everything I see is lowered. It's everything but one note is lowered, which is fairly hard to keep track of while sight reading something that utilizes both hands on the piano. Now, we were to hand them in at the beginning of class and she would go through the stack and play them, without practicing first. It's a freshman level class, how hard could it be? I spent weeks working on this because I wanted to make sure it was both well written and an absolute bitch to play. I had upperclassmen take a look at it to make sure everything was labeled correctly, and they told me I was the most magnificent bastard ever because this professor had irked most of the students in this department who had taken her class. Then the day comes. We all turn our papers in, and I'm visibly excited by everything. The professor comes in and goes full Dolores Umbridge. I certainly hope everyone met the requirements and put care into their work. If not, we'll soon find out. Goes to the piano and pulls the first paper off of the stack and makes some comments about it that aren't negative but are a bit goading regarding the amount of effort it seemed to take to write it. She, apparently, pulls mine up about 2/3 of the way, sits down to play it, and stops at the first chord. She looks around, makes eye contact with me, and straight up glares before regaining her composure and plunking through my piece. There are several chords that make a nice church before she corrects herself. That damn not flat note tripped her up every time, and it sounds like whoever wrote this piece did a crap job because of how it sounded. In the end, the meek international student, who has perfect pitch, raises her hand and goes, "Excuse me, Dr. Music Instructor, that piece just played, it has 6 flats in the key, yes?" And professor says, "Yes, it did. I didn't quite expect that." Student goes, "You didn't play all 6 flats, it didn't sound." Professor turns to glare at me and goes, No, I did not." I got a 97% because she marked a chord label as incorrect, went back in and showed her that she missed the not flat note in the chord and that it was labeled correctly. Got it changed to 100%. Well, she wanted you to participate, OP, and you sure did. Congratulations on that 100% and thanks for sharing. And it's that time that we've reached the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed today's stories. I really did enjoy reading them to you. So if you did, then don't be shy and go ahead and give the video a like. And don't forget to subscribe or even share this video with people that you might think will enjoy my storytelling. Also, if you have the time, go down to the video description and check out all the links I have for you, from our Discord community to my channel merch. And finally, I'd like to say thank you for watching. It really means a lot to me that you enjoy my videos. And having said all that, I'll see you guys in the next video.